everybody, what's going on? Hellmite here, bringing you another video from Grab the Lantern today. Today, I wanted to talk about Nexus Blitz, the new potentially permanent game mode Riot have added, and kind of give my initial few thoughts on the mode. Now, I haven't had time to get too many games down of this game mode, but I have at least gotten a taste and wanted to kind of give my impressions and what I think of this game mode now that's been out for a while and is currently sitting in alpha. So first and foremost, I think that Nexus Blitz potentially can be, and it can end up being a featured game or a permanent game mode as opposed to something featured. But right now, I don't think it has that possibility. I think at the moment, Nexus Blitz very much so feels like a temporary kind of for fun game mode in a very similar vein to ARAM. And that might just be because the mode is brand new and a lot of people are still figuring it out. But it doesn't feel so much like Nexus Blitz wants to be something for the long term. And that's just because, for the most part, and again, maybe this is just because of how players are playing it, because it's brand new, people are still figuring it out, but it feels like this game mode almost wants to be more of an ARAM type game than anything else. And that's just because a lot of players are just ignoring the lane, ignoring the jungle. All they really want to do is run after enemy champions and get kills, and the map really lends itself to do that. You have the super large jungle over in the top half of the map. Lanes are very spacious. They also have lots of brush nearby, so it really allows players to kind of surprise people with ganks and roams. It's very similar to Twisted Treeline in that regard, which, you know, I shouldn't say is closer to a featured game mode, but Twisted Treeline just has a different feeling about it because it's a smaller map. You're still playing to compete, and you just kind of have to adjust to having constant action all the time, whereas Nexus Blitz doesn't have that same kind of sense to it. And I think a big portion of that is that Nexus Blitz doesn't really feel like it has a laning phase. It feels like, for the most part, there are moments where you're just trying to get CS, I guess would be the best way to say it, but those moments feel like the times when you're waiting for something to happen in the jungle or waiting for a roam to happen elsewhere, as opposed to the main part of the early game. So generally speaking, in the early game, in Summoner's Rift, for example, you are just trying to last it for the most part. And yeah, roams can happen, yeah, solo kills can happen, but for the most part, that's kind of a one-off thing. And it feels more like laning phase is a longer, more acceptable thing, whereas in this game mode, it really doesn't feel like there's much of a laning phase. It feels like, for the most part, everyone's just kind of last hitting just because they're waiting for something else to happen elsewhere. I think that's primarily why it doesn't feel like a very permanent or very well-structured game mode, is just because a lot of it is just about running around, killing each other, invading the enemy jungle, generally just fight all the time. Now, another part of this is due to the random events that are in this game. I know that Riot are trying to actually have these events be a large part of Nexus Blitz, but to me personally, it makes them end up feeling less like something to play around, and it makes it feel more like a sort of for fun game mode in a similar vein to ARAM. And so all of this is kind of getting me to think that Nexus Blitz doesn't want to be a permanent game mode because it doesn't feel like there's that much of a way to kind of structure or build a meta or play around it, because you have these random events. It's impossible to kind of adjust to it in the same way that ARAM, you have random champions. You can never fully adjust to the mode because you always have to worry about, okay, well, we rolled 5 tanks and they rolled, you know, a perfect poke comp, so there's not a whole lot we can do about this. We're just going to lose, right? So it's impossible to take ARAM seriously, and it's the same sort of thing with Nexus Blitz, where because of random events, and sometimes they're going to help you, sometimes they're going to hurt you, sometimes the reward you get is great, sometimes it sucks. So it kind of makes it feel like there's no way for this to ever really be a permanent game mode, or if it is, I don't think there's ever a way to take Nexus Blitz seriously. It does feel like, at the end of the day, it is going to be more of an ARAM style of game. Now, to me personally, I don't see why we would need 2 ARAM style games. I think that ARAM kind of serves that niche just as well for sort of a low time commitment, low try-hardness, I guess, game mode. You don't really try that hard in ARAMs. If you do, I'm sorry, but you need to get a better hobby, because ARAM is all about fun and not trying very hard. And so in general, like, we already have ARAM. Like, that's one of the things that we can have fun with, as opposed to Nexus Blitz. So I wonder what the purpose of having Nexus Blitz be a permanent game mode really is, if that is the case. Now, obviously, some people might have different opinions than me. Some people might really like Nexus Blitz way more so than ARAM, and they want to play that instead. And it does have the benefit of allowing you to pick your champion as opposed to getting a random. So there is that going for it. But I think generally there is still a lot of randomness in Nexus Blitz that really prevents it from wanting to be a full-fledged game mode that will stick around forever. However, I do think it is a decent amount of fun. I think that having the random events is kind of a fun thing that they've got going on for them. I do really like some aspects of Nexus Blitz. I think the map in particular is really interesting. I like having the sort of large, spacious lanes that really lend themselves to team fighting. The jungle, I think, is really interesting. There's a lot of really cool stuff that does happen in Nexus Blitz. I quite like certain aspects of it. However, at the end of the day, I don't know that I would classify it as something I would want to stick around forever. But again, this is kind of my first few thoughts. One of the things, I like the rewards for completing the quest, especially if you are able to pull it out from a bad situation. I think in some aspects, quests can be tilted a little too far towards one side or the other, especially during certain events where it's sort of like, okay, yeah, the enemy capture, or the King of the Hill Zone spawned literally under the enemy tower. You just lose that one guaranteed, and you have to hope the enemy team doesn't roll something really good. Which is kind of disappointing to me personally. I'm not a big fan of that when that happens, so not quite balanced entirely on those type of game modes. But I do think that some of the events in particular feel very fair, especially the landing snowballs one. I really do like that one in particular. I feel like it's a lot more balanced, it's a lot more skillful. And again, kind of to talk about the rewards, sometimes the rewards are really good. BF shields in particular, I think is actually completely broken. I don't know what you do against BF shields other than cry and let the enemy team take all of your structures, because it's actually impossible to team fight with them when they have BF shields. Your only hope is to do enough poke damage. So I'm not a big fan of that one, whereas other ones like the Blitzcrank hook one doesn't feel useful at all. I don't know why you would really ever want to get that one. You feel kind of cheated when it does come out. But at the end of the day, I think that the randomness of it does help it kind of stay in the sort of for fun type game mode that Riot really wanted to have in it. I'm glad that they introduced all of these new items as well. Having access to Spear of Shojin and Atma's Reckoning is really nice for me as a fighter player. I'm sure a lot of burst mages are happy that they can build Deathfire Grasp. I'm sure ADs have a lot of really nice items that they can build as well. So that's really cool. I do appreciate all of these, all the item changes. However, at the end of the day, I am going to say I don't think this game mode is going to be one for me. I am the sort of guy who just really wants to play Rift all the time. That's most of what I do. So, you know, I'm not going to say, oh, you know, this game mode sucks, because I think at the end of the day, I can just say it's not for me. I do think that there is a lot of enjoyment to be had in this game mode. Very definitely. I had a decent amount of fun when I was playing it. It wouldn't be something I'd play a lot, but it is something I would play. So those are just kind of my initial thoughts on Nexus Blitz. Go ahead and let me know what you guys are thinking of it down in the comment section below. Would love to hear your thoughts on this game mode, what you think of the balance, if you would be playing a lot more of it, if you think it should stick around, all that and more. Let me know down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like, and if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days as well. And if you're looking for more Grab the Lantern content, you can check out my blog, link down in the description. I upload an article just about each and every single day for your enjoyment. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I'll talk to you all later.